Yeah, okay. Thank you. Right. So in the last session, we discussed about the basic features of assembler, and we had seen some assembler directives, right? So we had seen what's the entire process that we are supposed to look into. So we have a source program, and that source program needs to be converted into an object program, right? So that's the job of the assembler. So how exactly it achieves this task? So that's what we are supposed to look into in detail. So the task of the assembler is to translate the mnemonic operation codes or opcodes or operation codes into their machine language equivalent. That is one of the tasks. And then they are also supposed to assign address for symbolic labels that are being used by the programmer. So we know that our program is divided into three sections, right? So we have the label section or the label part, we have the opcode part, and we have the operand part, right? So this is how our assembly level language is written. So in the label part, we will have labels and variables declared. In the opcode part, we will have the operation code specified. And of course, operands are nothing but the labels or variables that you have declared in your program. Right? So if I want to assemble an instruction, this instruction, so we have two tasks to perform. So the first part is to translate this opcode into its machine equivalent, and also to translate this label into its machine equivalent. But if I want to translate the value of this label, then I need to know what value has been assigned to this particular label or for this operand. So this is the major task here, right? So in order to assist the assembler to do its task, there are certain assembler directives that will be specified along with the program. So we discussed about few of the assembler directives, right from the assembler directive start, which actually specifies the name of the program and the starting address of the program. We also discussed about the end assembler directive, which actually specifies the end of the program, and it also specifies the address of the first executable instruction. Then we have byte, word, reserve byte, and reserve word. So all of these are used in variables and constant declaration, right? For example, byte and word, they are going to initialize or they are going to generate a character or a hexadecimal constant, and then they are going to initialize its value to the value that you have specified. Similarly, word also works. It will initialize the word constant. So reserve byte and reserve word, I'll reserve the number of bytes or number of words that you have specified in order to declare a variable or initialize that. Not initialize, but declare a variable, right? So these are some of the assembler directives that will direct the assembler to do something, right? Or they give some information to the assembler, like start and end gives information about the program, where it begins, where it ends, what's the name, and what is the starting address. Okay, of course, when I see the end assembler directive, I can also calculate the length of the assembler directive, sorry, length of the program. So in this case, what will happen is I will get the details about the programs. Whereas when it comes to byte, word, reserve byte, and reserve word, we can declare variables and constants. Or basically, the assembler knows that these are variables and constants, and they are going to act accordingly. So I was also discussing about the object program, right? So this is the program, assembly level language program that has been written. So it does certain tasks. I will discuss about what exactly this program does later. This is not important because, as I said, our focus is on how to translate this assembly level language program to machine level language program. Okay, or basically binary program. So our task would be that. So we will focus on how do we do that without trying to understand the logic right now. So this is the program. So when this program gets converted to assembly level language, it will look something like this. Okay, as I discussed in the last class. So this is the object program that has been generated. Right? So this is the object program that has been generated, and the object program basically comprises of a set of records. So all your instructions in the program will be converted into a record format. So what are those records, right? So I told you that there are three major records in this object program. So first record is the header record, the second record is the text record, and the third record is the end record. Okay, so I already discussed about the header record and end record. Now let us look at the text record. What is the content of the text record? So what do you mean by, or what is the text record? So just like header and end record, just like header record starts with an H, end record starts with an E, text record starts with a T. Okay, so it starts with a T, and you are supposed to write down T first. That's it, and then starts with a T. So this is column number 1. Okay, then from column number 2 to 7, 2 to 7, okay, 2 3 4, okay, up to 7. So what do we have? So we will have the starting address for the object code in this record. Okay, like one program can have several text records. So how many object code is there in this particular text record? So that information and the starting address of the object code in this particular record. So that will be specified from 2 to 7. Okay, so that will be specified from 2 to 7. So starting address of the object code in this particular text record. Okay, so if you look into it, one text record can contain around 10 instructions. Okay, remember this, one text record can contain around 10 instructions, 10 converted instructions. Okay, so if your program is having around 30, okay, if your program is having around 30 instructions, then how many text record I need? So normally I would read around 3 text records. Okay, I would read around 3 text records. So when I specify the first text record, the address of the first instruction, okay, will be present here. Okay, and then it will be followed by something. I'll discuss about what follows later. Then first text record contains 10 instructions. The next text record will contain instructions from 11 to 20, right? So the address of the 11th instruction will be specified in the second text record, second field. Okay, so the starting address for the object code in this particular record. So in this record, 11th instruction is the first record. So that starting address is going to be specified over here. Okay, in the third record, it will contain from 21 to 30. Okay, so the starting address of the 21st instruction or the address of the 21st instruction is going to be present in the third text record. Okay, I hope you are getting it. What is the column 2 to 7 does? It will specify the starting address for the object code in that particular record only. Okay, so next is column number 8 to 9. Right, so we have T, we have starting address of the program, starting address of the object code in that particular record, and then it is followed by, so this is from 2 to 7. So this is 1, column number 1, this is column number 2 to 7. So column number 8 to 9, so 8 and 9. So what will they contain? So they will contain the length of the object code in this record. Length of the object code in this record. So how many instructions are there in this record? So in bytes, you will specify that length. Okay, so this will contain the length, this will contain the starting address. Okay, then from column number 10 to 69, okay, we will have the object code. Okay, so from column number 10 to 69, we will have the object code that we have generated, right? So this is how our object program would actually look like. So whatever you are seeing here in text record, so all of those are instructions actually. Those are converted instructions in binary, or in this case it is hexadecimal, by the way. So we have converted the instructions in hexadecimal and we have written it in the object program format. So what does the object program contain? Text record, end record, and header record. Right now there are only 3 records. We will add more records as and when needed. Okay. So how do we convert this program, right? So this is a program. How do we convert this particular program into a object program? So that's the question, and that's the important part of assembler. Okay, so we'll just change the PPT for you. So how do we convert that? Okay. So I hope you are able to see this. So this is the sample program that I have taken, or a part of the program that I have taken. So this is a program that is written for SIC standard model. Okay, so this is a program that is written for SIC standard model. This is a part of the program, and this is a program that we are supposed to translate or convert into an object program. Okay, so our aim is to convert this to an object program, right? So how do we convert? Okay, so this is almost similar to how we perform a translation. Okay, like for example, if I put an English statement here and if I ask you to translate it to Kannada, of course, most of you are going to do it, right? Like for example, what do I put? He's reading a book, or he's reading. So this is a sentence that I have put. So if I ask you to translate it in Kannada, of course, all of you know the answer already. So ಅವನು ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ you will write or you will say the answer, right? So if I say book, what is the translation in Kannada? What do you call a book in Kannada? Pustaka, right? So if I ask any word, I read in Kannada, right? So any word, okay. What is a word in Kannada? Right? So you already know the answer for all of these questions that I'm trying, right? Or in other words, you basically are translating it in your mind. Okay, or the answer basically you're getting is because of the translation from English to Kannada, right? Now, how did you know that the answer for book is pustaka? How do you know that answer, right? Because it's stored in your memory, correct? When we were studying in school, we were told that book means pustaka, right? So reading means ಓದ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ ಓದು, right? So all those things have been embedded inside your brain, and with that information, embedded information, you are able to perform the translation. Now if I ask you the same question, like what do you mean by book in French? Will you be able to answer that question? Or if I ask you to translate the first sentence he is reading in Spanish or in French or any other language that you do not know, will you be able to translate? No. Right? So what is important here? Important here is that you should know the language. Right? So if you know the language, then you will be able to perform the translation. Okay. So the same case apply here as well in the assembly level language translation. So when we are translating, we are supposed to know both the languages. So, or the assembler in this case is supposed to know both the languages, right? So it has to know what is there in assembly level language program, and it has to know what is there in machine level language program, or it has to know its equivalent. Okay, right. Now I said that, I hope you got that particular point. So in order to perform the translation, the assembler has to be familiar with both the languages. It has to know what is written in assembly level language, and it has to know its machine level language equivalent. Okay, just like when I'm asking you to translate from English to Kannada, I assume that you know Kannada language, right? And I assume that you know all the equivalent words of English in Kannada language. So that's why I ask you to translate. Okay, if you don't know the language, obviously I know you'll not be able to do the same, right? So here also the same case applies. So what is it that we are supposed to convert here, right? So look at the instruction. We are supposed to convert instructions, right? So when you are supposed to convert instructions, what is there in an instruction? Just look into it. What is there in an instruction? So one of it is an opcode and one of them is an operand. Okay, what is an operand? An operand is nothing but a variable, or it can be a label, or it can be a constant, correct? So it can be either one of these. Okay, so we are only supposed to convert these two. So one of them is the opcode. So if an opcode is present, so what is the equivalent binary of this particular opcode is what I want to know. And if I know that, I will be easily able to translate or convert that. Similarly, I should also know what is the binary equivalent of this variable or a label or a constant, or in other words, an operand. So if I know what is the binary equivalent of an operand, then I will be easily able to convert both of them and write its machine equivalent. Okay. So an instruction, I can write the machine equivalent of an instruction if only I know the opcode and the operand. Okay. So what is the value of the opcode and what is the value of the operand? If I know these two, then I will be able to write down what is the machine equivalent of a instruction written in assembly level language. Okay. So this is the overall idea of conversion or translation. Right. Now this is a program. I have taken a part of the program that was there in the previous presentation. So we'll try to convert this particular program and write the object program for the same. Okay, right. Now one thing that you have to know is that the opcode values, okay, the opcode values will be known to the assembler. Okay, so it is known to the assembler. Okay, like for example, STL opcode, the value of that value is 14. Okay, it's not a binary, it's hexadecimal, but I'll just return it as binary equivalent. So LDA, the opcode value for LDA in binary is 00. Okay, jump if equal to, this is an instruction or an opcode, so its value is 30. Now we need not remember these values because these values will be given to you. Okay, just like how assembler knows, these values will be given to you, so you need not worry about that, right? So I have given you the values of opcode. So when I know the value of opcode, obviously translating an opcode is very easy now, right? For example, if I want to translate this instruction STL RETADR, I already know the value of STL. What is STL? STL is 14. Okay, so I can simply write down for the first instruction, I can simply write down 14. Okay, so JSUB, second instruction JSUB, what is the value of JSUB? Alright, so JSUB is 48. So I can simply write for JSUB 48. Okay, what is the third instruction? Third instruction is LDA. What is the value of LDA? Let us see. LDA is 00. So I can simply write down 00. So it's that easy. Because I know the value of opcode, right, or the machine equivalent value of the opcode, I can simply write down these values and I can perform the translation. But I have not completely translated this instruction. I have just written a part of it. STL I have written. But what is the value of RETADR? Correct? So I don't know the value of RETADR. So what is RD record? I don't know the value of RD record. So I know the opcodes, but I do not know the value of the operand. So if I know the value of operand, then I can simply write it down and I will complete the translation process. But I do not know currently what is the value of the operand or what is the value of this particular labels. Okay, so these values needs to be assigned. These values needs to be assigned, right? So all the values that are present here, I do not know their values. So I need to assign those particular values for the labels. So how do I assign? For example, see here, where is RET Where is RET ADR is present here, right? So its declaration is here. So I need to know what is the value that is assigned to this particular instruction. So all of these are instructions, right? So similarly, compare 0. So what is the value of compare? Compare COMP is 28. I know that. But what is the value of 0? I do not know the value of 0. Okay? Because why? 0 is declared here in this program. 0 is declared here in this program. Right? So for example here, JC loop. Correct? So C loop is declared over here. So what is the value? I don't know currently. So obviously we first need to find out the values of these labels, and if we know the values of these labels, then I can easily assemble the instruction. So the process of translation is called as assembly. So what I can do is, if I know the opcode from this, then I have to find out the value of this. So when I know both the values, I will simply write them together to generate the object code. Okay, so this process is called as assembly. Right? Now how do I find out the value of this label? Okay, so of course to do that we have to first perform what is called as address assignment. So we have to perform the address assignment because we are the one who have written this program, right? So we have written this program like this. So first, as per our writing, we have to perform the address assignment. Okay, so how do we perform the address assignment? Let us see. Okay, so now there is some information that is given in the program. For example, here we know that there are certain assembler directives, correct? So we discussed about the assembler directives earlier. So start is one such assembler directive, byte is another assembler directive, word, reserve word, and reserve byte. So all of these are assembler directives. Apart from that, everything else is an opcode, correct? In this particular column, everything else is a opcode. So assembler directives gives us some information. Like for example, copy. What does it tell? It says that this is the name of the program, right? So copy is the name of the program. So start assembler directive, right? So it says copy is the name of the program, and this is the starting address of my program. Okay. So this is the starting address means what? My first instruction is going to start from this particular address. So we are now supposed to perform the address assignment. So from which value we are going to start? From the starting address that has been specified. So here it has been specified as 1000. So I will start the value, or I will start my program at address 1000. Okay, so at 1000 my first instruction will start. Got it? So now we can observe that we have assigned a value for this label. Correct? So what is the value of first? The value of first is 1000. Okay, so now for our reference, what I will do is I will just fill up this value as 1000. So I have assigned a value for first, so I have written 1000 here. Okay, now if my first instruction is at 1000, where will be my second instruction, or what will be the address assigned to my second instruction? Okay, now remember this is an SIC standard model program. Okay, so what is the size of an instruction in SIC? Can anyone answer? Of course, next time whoever has not put the profile picture, they will be asked question, but this time I'm generally asking, what is the size of an instruction in SIC standard model? See, this information you are supposed to know because we have discussed about SIC and SIC bar XC. What is the 24 bits, right? So 24 bit means what? One word. Okay. So one word means how much? 3 bytes. Okay, one word means 3 bytes, right? So one instruction is 3 bytes. Okay, so of course memory is organized in terms of bytes, right? So if one instruction is 3 bytes, then obviously where will be the second instruction? So it will be at 1003. Okay. Meanwhile, I hope all of you do have a paper and a pen, because I'm going to give an exercise at the end. So you can simply observe it right now, and later on you can practice it. So if not, you can ask somebody at home to give a pen and paper, or you can get it yourself, right? So as you can observe here, first instruction starts at 1000. So one instruction is 3 bytes. So obviously the next instruction will be present after 3 bytes. So what is the value then? It is 1003. Okay. Now I have assigned a value for C loop also. What is that value? It is 1003. Okay, I'll write it down in the table that I have given at the end. So it is 1003 for the next instruction. Okay. So at 1003 we have C loop, J sub, read record. Now once again we have an instruction. So what is the size of an instruction? 3 bytes. Okay. So I will now write that the next instruction is at 1006. Right. So this instruction is at 1006. Okay. So this is also an instruction now. So what is the size of an instruction? 3 bytes. So obviously the next instruction is present at 1009. Okay. The next instruction is present at 1009. Okay. Now remember, these are hexadecimal addresses. So whenever I'm incrementing, I will be using hexadecimal numbering system, right? Okay. So once again, this instruction is 3 bytes, right? So how much is 9 plus 3? 9, 10, 11, 12. Correct? So 12 in hexadecimal is, I believe, A is 10, B is 11. So 9, 10, 11, 12. So sorry, this is C. Okay, I'm using hexadecimal numbering here. So 9 plus 3 is 10, 11, 12. Right? So 12 in hexadecimal is C. So 1000 and C. 100C is where this instruction is present. So now can anyone tell me what is the address of the next instruction? What is the address of the next instruction? J sub write record. What is the address that will be assigned to J sub write record? So currently we are at 100C. So there is an instruction of size 3 bytes, right? So we need to add 3 to this. So 12, 13, 14, 15. So what is 15 in hexadecimal? 15 in hexadecimal is F. So I'm writing 100F. So this instruction is now presented 100F. Now what is the address of the next instruction? JC loop. If you have calculators, you can use them in exams, so that wouldn't be a problem. But I believe this is simple arithmetic. You can tell the answer. So 100F plus, there is an instruction. So 3 bytes we are supposed to add. So 100F plus 3. Okay. So I believe it will be something like 15. Go back to 012, right? So I think it is 1012. Is it correct? 1012. Is it correct? For J sleep. 100F plus 3 we have to add. So I believe it will be 1012. Okay, you can cross verify, or if it is wrong, then you can let me know. Now next instruction, end fill LDA EOF. Instruction is actually LDA EOF, but there is a label that's present there. So what is the value of this label, end fill now, or what is the address assigned for this instruction? So 1012 plus J C loop was 3 bytes, right? So 1012 plus 103 3, sorry, 1012 plus 3, so it is 1015. So end fill has a value 1015. So I'll just fill up that 1015. Right? So like this, if we go on, right, we can get to the end of the statement here, which is buffer. Okay, and the values that will be assigned for all labels would be something like this. Okay, can you observe the values that have been assigned for all the labels in the program, correct? So observe, just forget about the first line because we have just repeated the same address. So first address started, first instruction started at 1000, then plus 3 we added. Why we added plus 3? Because we know that one instruction in SIC occupies 3 bytes. Okay, so that's why the next address was 1003. Next instruction is 1006. Next instruction is 1009. Next instruction is 1000C. Then 100F, 1012, 1015. End fill we have got 1015. And next is 1018. We have just simply added 333 to every instruction. But remember that the same does not go with assembler directives. Okay. Now, for example, come here, which is at line number 80. I hope you are seeing that. So previously at 1027, we have an R sub instruction, which is 3 bytes in length. So 1027 plus 3, which is 7 plus 3 is 10. So we have got the address 102A for EOF. Okay. Now byte is there. Byte is there. Correct? Now I said that byte will reserve 1 byte. Okay, byte will reserve 1 byte, or how many bytes that the constant actually requires. Now here we have declared a constant, character constant. So EOF. How many characters are there? 3 characters are there. So E is one character, O is another character, F is another character. So one character occupies how much? 3 bytes. So how much we have to increment, or how much we have to add to get the next address? We have to add 3 to get the next address. So therefore 102A plus 3 is how much? 102D. Okay. Now suppose for example, if only E was present. Suppose if only E was present, right? Then what would be the value for the next statement 3? How much we are supposed to add? It is byte, but how many bytes do you need to store that constant? Only 1 byte, because we have only one character. So in that case, the value of the next instruction, or the address for the next instruction, will become 102B. Got it? It will become 102B. But for now, it is 102D because we have got 3 characters specified as the constant. Okay. Next one. What is the next assembler directive? Word. Okay. So word means how much? 1 word. So how much we are supposed to increment? By only 1 word. Okay, which is 3 bytes. So that's why 102D plus 3 is how much? Okay. So DEF 0. Correct. So 1030 is where the next address is going to be. Now once again, at 1030 we have got an assembler directive word. So 1 word has to be reserved and initialized, right? So we will increment by 3. So 1030 plus 3 is 1033. So return address is present at 1033. Okay. Now observe at reserve word. It's not word, it is reserve word. So reserve word does what? It will reserve how many number of words has been specified in operand field. Okay. Like for example here, how many word has been reserved? Only 1. So how much we have to increment? So 1033 plus 1 word is how much? 3 bytes. So it will become 1036. Now for example, if this was not 1, if this was 2, if this was 2, right? So instruction is return address reserve word 2. So 2 words we are supposed to reserve. So how much is 2 words? Around 6 bytes. So 3 plus 3. So we have to add 6 to this. So in that case, this would have become 9. Got it? Okay. So only few cases we need to be alert when we are dealing with assembler directives, because if it's an instruction, we know that instruction has a fixed size, so we will just increment 333. But when it comes to the assembler directives, we have um, what word, we have byte, we have reserve byte, and we have reserve word, right? So all those things needs to be dealt with separately. Okay, for example, as I said, if reserve word says 1 here, I will add 3 to the address. If reserve word says 2, I will add 6. If reserve word says 3, I will add 9. Got it? So similarly for reserve byte also. So how many bytes has been specified here? That many number of bytes you are supposed to add to your address. Okay, like for example here, last address is 1039. Okay, and to that we are supposed to add 4096. Now 4096 in hexadecimal is 1000. Okay, 4096 in hexadecimal is 1000. So the address that we are going to get after that last instruction is 1039 plus 1000. So it is 2039. Got it? It is 2039. So the last address that we are going to get, or the next address that we are going to get after the last statement, is 2039. Got it? So what we have done here is we looked into the information given by the program, and based on that information we have performed the address assignment for the labels. Okay, now we have all the values for the labels. You can cross verify. Two of them are not a part of this program, I have given them generally. So here the value of read record is return address is 1033. Correct? We can check where is return address. So here it is. Similarly, 3 is 102D, correct? So 3 is 102D. Length is 1036. This is present here. Buffer is 1039. Okay, and of course read record and write record I have given them directly because they are further away from the program. So 2039 and write record is 2061. And similarly, first is 1000, C loop is 1003, and end fill is 1015. Got it? Okay, now with all this information, with all this information available, can we assemble the program? Okay, assembly is nothing but writing together the opcode with the operand. That's it. Okay, can we do that? Right. So let's generate the object program. Okay, so I'll be writing it here. Okay, so what is STL? STL is 14. Okay, what is RETADR? I know the value 1033. Right? It's that easy. Next, JSub. What is JSub? 48. Okay. Next, read record. Have I given the value of read record? Or have we assigned an address for read record? Yes. 2039. Right? So 2039. Next, LDA length. What is LDA? 00. What is length? Length value is 1036. Right? Isn't this easy? So if we continue further, okay, like for example, I'll write the last instruction, LDL, okay, it's 08, LDL is 08. What is RETADR? RETADR, return address value is 1033, correct? So it is 1033, I'm writing it. Okay, R sub, what is R sub? 4C, right? So its operand is not there. So I'll just write 0000 for it. Okay. Next one, for assembler directives, right? So EOF byte C EOF. So EOF value, I think it is 454F46 something. Okay. So this is, I'm writing the hexadecimal equivalent of character E, character O, and character F. Okay, 4F, 4F, and 46. So this is the value. You need not remember this, but I'm just writing the machine equivalent of characters E, O, and F. Okay. Next, 3 word 3, right? So this does what? It will reserve one word and it will initialize its value to 3. So one word means, so this is one half byte, second half byte, third half byte, fourth half byte, fifth half byte, and the last value is 3. Got it? Because we are writing in hexadecimal, I am saying half byte. Next one, all of them are zeros. Okay, right. Now remember that object code is not going to be generated for these things. Why? Because they are just reserved word. Memory has been initialized, or memory has been assigned, but no value is initialized. So that's why you will not get any object code for this. Okay. So similarly, I will write a object code in between somewhere. For example, JC loop. What is JC loop? 3C. Correct. So 3C C loop. C loop value is what? C loop value is 1003. So 3C 1003. Right. So this is how easy it is to write an object code or an machine code for the assembly level language. Okay, so you can cross verify here what we have done. So look at the extreme left location. So this is the addresses that we had assigned. So this was the first step, right? So once we assigned the address, then only we knew the value of labels. So that's how we were able to generate this object code, right? So opcode value we had known because I had given you the table. It was only the opcode value, operand value, sorry, operand value or the label value that we did not know. So now we even know that after address assignment. So once both of these values are known, it's just a matter of putting them together. So which we have done that to generate the object code. Okay. Now this is the object code generated, not the object program. Got it? This is the object code that is generated, not the object program, right? So if the object program has to be generated, then what we are supposed to do? We are supposed to write them down in terms of records. Which records? We are supposed to write them down in terms of header record, end record, and text record. Okay. So let us write that down next. Okay. So just for your reference, I have given the contents of header record, text record, and end record. Okay. Let us now start the generation of header record. So what should I write at the beginning? H for header record. So I will start by writing H. Okay. I'll start by writing H. Okay. Next, what I should write? From 2 to 7, I should write program name. What is the name of the program? Where do I get it? I get it from the start assembler directive, left hand side, right? So it says copy. So I will write from 2 to 7. So this is the name of the program. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll leave the next two as blank. Okay, what is next? Next I am supposed to write the starting address of the program. Okay, I am supposed to write the starting address of the program. Where do I get the starting address? It is present in the start assembler directive. So it is 1000. Right? So from 2 to 7, right? Sorry, not 2 to 7. From 8 to 13, right? So write 00. What is the starting address? 1000. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Correct? From 8 to 13. So starting address is 1000. Anything else we have to write? From 14 to 19, we are supposed to write the length of the object program in bytes. Okay. So from 14 to 19, I believe. 14 to 19, I guess, right? Yes, from 14 to 19. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So from here to here, I'm supposed to mention the length of the program. So how do I know the length of the program? Okay. So I said that reserve byte 4096, correct? So how many bytes are going to be reserved for that? 1000 bytes. So the last value that I have obtained is 2039, correct? The last value that I have obtained is 2039. So where did the program start? The program actually started at 1000. Okay, now the value at the end is 2039. So if I subtract this, will I get the length of the program? Right? So starting address minus ending address. So that will give me the length of the program. Right? So starting address is 1000, ending address is 2039. So obviously I should get the length of the program as 1039. Okay. So this is what I'll write here. So it is 001039. This is the length of the program. Okay. So we have now written our header record. Okay. Similarly, let us write the end record. Let us write the end record. So what should the end record have? So just check. It should start with E, which I have already written. Then from 2 to 7, it should contain the address of the first executable instruction in the object program. Okay. Of course, I have not specified the end assembler directive here. So if an end assembler directive has not been specified, or if end only has been mentioned, then the first instruction in your program itself will become the first executable instruction. Okay. So which is the first instruction here? This is the first instruction. What is the starting address of that? 1000. So I will write here as 1000 from 2 to 7, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have completed my end record. Okay. Now we will write the text record. This is important. Okay. We'll write the text record now. So text record, what does this contain? First T, I have already written that. Okay. Next, starting address for object code in this record. Okay. So let us look into the program. So I said that in one text record you can have maximum 10 instructions. Okay. So this is the object code that we have generated. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. Okay, so these instructions will go in one of my text record. So the next part will go in another text record. Okay, so let us now write down the starting address of the first text record, starting address of the first instruction in this particular text record. So the first instruction in this text record is 141033. So what is the address of that? As you can observe, the address is 1000. Okay. So what will my text record contain? So first it will contain 001000. Okay. So this is the starting address of the first instruction in that particular text record. Right. Next one, from 8 to 9, what do we have? Length of the object code in this record. In bytes you have to mention. Okay. Now I know that I will have 10 instructions in this instruction. Okay. Now each instruction is of how much size? 3 bytes. Correct? One instruction is 3 bytes in size. And how many such instruction I have? I have around 10 instructions. Okay. So what is the total number of instructions, or what is the total size then? 30 bytes. So one text record contains 30 bytes. So we are supposed to mention that 30 bytes in hexadecimal. So what is 30 in hexadecimal? Divided by 16. That's it. Okay. So it is 1E. If you check that. So it is 1E. So I will mention 1E over here. So my text record from 8 to 9, right? Text record from 8 to 9 will contain 1E. Okay, how do I get that? As I said, in one text record I can have 10 instructions, or you can have any number of instructions. Like for example, if you have only 3 instructions, for example. So 3 instructions means how much size? One instruction is 3 bytes, so 3 threes are 9. So you will have 9 here. Okay, so you will have 9 here. Got it? So this is how we are supposed to write the text record. Okay, so first part I have written, second part I have written. Let us look at the third part. What is the third part? So from column number 10 to 69 we have object code. So we are supposed to put the object code, that's it. Okay, so what is the first object code? 141033. Okay, so I'll write 141033. This is my first instruction. I'm just writing it down, that's it. Next one, next instruction is 482039. 482039. Okay, what is the next instruction? 001036. 001036. Whatever we have generated there, you're supposed to write it down, that's it. Okay, so I'll write down, assume that I have written all the things, and last one is 00102D. So it is 00102D. So my first text record is completed. Okay, after this I will not be able to add more instructions, because one text record maximum size is 10 instructions. Okay, so I return the first text record, but my program still contains instructions. So what I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to add one more text record for my object program. So I'll do that now. So I'll write T. Okay, now come back to the program. So up to this we are done. Okay, up to this we are done. So these are the remaining instruction. What is the starting address of this instruction, which is going to be my first instruction in the second text record? So it is 101E. Okay, so I will write 00101E. Okay, so now I need to write the length. So let me check how many instructions are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So total 7 instructions are there. So 7 instruction means 7, and each one of them are 3 bytes, right? 7 threes are 21. So we are supposed to write down the hexadecimal equivalent of 21. So what is 21? 16 ones are 16. How much remains? 4, 5. Correct. I believe it is 1, 5 something. If I am wrong, then just correct it. So it's 15, or should I write, I don't know, 0f or something. Okay, so assume that it is an hexadecimal number for 21. Now I am going to write down the values for the object code. So 0C1036. So 0C1036, and then continue with the next one, which is 482061. 482061, and so on and so forth, up to what? Up to 0000. Got it? So we have put all the instructions or all the object code that was generated in our text record format. Now this is our object program. Okay, not this one. This is our object program. Okay, so object program that is generated for this. Okay, so I believe I have that. So this is the value. Observe here, I think it's visible. So header record written, text record written, and end record written. Got it? Okay, so this is how you perform the translation of assembly level language into machine level language. Okay, now I will take 10 more minutes for you because I would like you to convert this into an object program. Into an object program. Okay. Now assume, if you observe this exercise, I want all of you to do this exercise. I will ask anyone after some time to answer. If you observe this particular program, you can see that the start and end assembler directive has not been given. Okay, so sometimes they will not give you the start and end assembler directive, so you have to assume that. Okay, so if start assembler directive has not been given, then in that case you can consider that the starting address of the program is 0000, or that particular program has to be assembled from 0000, or in other words, this is equivalent to start 0000. I'll give you the name of the program. This is EX1, right? And I'll simply write end. Okay, so if they haven't given start and end assembler directive, then you have to assume that this is the values. Okay, so program name is EX1, starting address is 0000, and end with no value has been given, which means that obviously the first executable instruction is 0000. Okay, right. So I would like you to translate this program into an object program. All of you have to do this, because if you don't practice this, then forget about writing internals. So now time is 103. I'll wait for 7 minutes. 110. So if you are done, you can raise your hands so that I can continue. Alright, it's 1:10. How many of you have done? Can raise hand. Don't worry, I will not ask question. How many of you tried? How many of you are done? Right? Okay, so I believe you. It's time for lunch also. So if you are done, then it's well and good. We will discuss about the answer maybe in my next session. Okay. So of course, at the first time itself, it's difficult to understand and get. But if you are done, it's well and good. So we'll discuss about the answer for this exercise in the next session. I think evening I will take. I don't know whether you have any sessions lined up. Do you have any sessions in the evening? I'll just take for half an hour. That's it. Okay. Two you have a session, I believe. Okay. So if evening no sessions are there, then maybe around 4:30 to 5 or 4:45 to 5:30, something around that time. I will take one more session and I will discuss the answer about this exercise. Okay. So all of you do attend. This is going to be very very important question for your internals. Of course, generating object program is what we are supposed to understand. If you haven't understood that, then you haven't really learned anything about assembler. Okay, so ultimately it will come down to that. So do uh, join the session in the evening. I will announce the timings later. Meanwhile, I believe you can have lunch and attend the session at 2 p.m. Okay, in just a second I will take the attendance once again because some of them left after they saw I take the attendance, so I'll take it again. and I will verify later who are those students who have left, and maybe in the next session I will ask them to give the answers. Okay, so do add a profile picture to your account, and I will see you in my next session. Okay, thank you, students.